You you probably lived through situations like this in your years playing and coaching, where you had a leading player return after an absence. I wonder if you is there something that comes to mind with the times where you've lived through that and how it worked right away in terms of reintegrating them and how the team responded?
Yeah, I mean, I think we see it throughout sport, right? Players that are coming back and reintegrating. It's a process. It doesn't happen right away. You try to simulate gameplay as much as you can in practice, rhythm, timing, conditioning, endurance. I mean, all of those things. And there's nothing like just getting out there and going. I think for C and for Soph, both of them, their adrenaline's going to take them pretty far in that first half, and we've got to do a really good job of managing the adrenaline rush versus the fatigue of just getting out there and playing games for the first time, handling physicality, playing 40 minutes, the lateral movement, the bursts of speed, those moments. And so you'll probably see them both in a little bit shorter stints to start as we kind of get a feel for where they are.
Caitlin just said she thought minutes restrictions were silly, and she
Of course she
and
does.
she didn't want to return unless she was full go.
Yeah.
Just what were those discussions like with a minutes restriction versus those shorter stints?
There really weren't discussions. It was just asking questions to our training staff of, do we think that we need a minutes restriction? And, they were adamantly, no, I don't think so. She's done the work that she needs to do to make sure that she's ready to go. I think the challenge for us as coaches and for Caitlin is just, how long do we go at one period of time? We don't want emotional or physical fatigue, early in the ball game. So just kind of gauging that by how she feels and how she looks, and and for us, and we're continuing to then build our positive progress.
Steph, I know she wasn't out that long, but what do you think she gained, if you will, or learned from the time she was out?
Felt like it was a long time. I think you see the game from a different perspective when you're on the sideline. We had her keeping track of some things for us on the offensive end, just to see, different runs, so to speak. Like if we've gone 3 or 4 possessions, how do we make sure we execute and get a high quality shot? If they've gone 3 or 4 possessions, what do we like to run? What can we see? How can we slow it down? Learn to hit singles instead of always making home run plays. Seeing different views of shot selection, seeing different views of how to get your teammates in positions to be successful. And you really can't simulate that until it's taken away from you. And so I think getting opportunity to see it from the sideline, to listen to us coaches on the sideline and the things that we're reiterating, the messaging that we're talking about, and then being able to take that and apply it on the floor.
The last time you played the Liberty, there was obviously a frustrating ending. What lessons can you take from that experience, and how can that be applied to this, even though I know obviously Liberty look a little different with 2 starters out?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly you take time and score situations, different versions of handling runs, offensively, defensively. Margin for error is small against a team like New York, and every play matters. Every time we send them to the free throw line matters. Every rebound matters. We can't afford to have empty possessions on the offensive end of the floor. You've got to play your A game, and so I think we continue to learn lessons from the first time we played them and from our last game against Atlanta, every single day that we move forward. I think they're a different team. Certainly we're going to be a different team having C and Sophie back on the floor. And we're going to tip the ball up and go out, and we're going to give it everything that we have.
You're just asked about what Caitlin might have learned when she was out. On the flip side of that, what can you kind of learn about the rest of your group when a player like that is out for a couple weeks?
I think you learn about the resilience of a group. I think you learn about the flexibility of a group, adaptability of a group. No matter what, whether execution was really good or not, energy was always good. This is a resilient group. This is a group who's competitive. It's a group who balances one another out. It's a group who wants to continue to get better. We have great leadership. Not just from Caitlin, AB, and from Kelsey, but Sid Colson and Sophie and Lexi. I mean, really collectively, they all know how to lead from different positions. And you often think about the leader being at the front, but you got to lead from the side. You got to lead from behind. And I think we have a great group in that locker room that knows how to do that.
A lot's changed since the last time you played New York. You guys have gone through a lot. Caitlin said it almost feels like kind of starting the season again
Yeah.
today. Do you get that sense at all? I know you guys aren't completely whole with DB out, but do you kind of get that sense of like, all right, now we can kind of start to move forward as a whole again?
I do. It's like you're starting again with, Sophie and Caitlin, two of our top 6 players who have been out for a minute. You're reintegrating them, and not just players that have been out, but Caitlin is a high usage player. She's a high usage player that scores. She's a high usage player that finds everybody else and puts them in positions to be successful. And you miss that on the floor. So it is like starting again, starting anew. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think we've seen throughout the course of seasons, in fact, even with the Pacers right in front of us, injury early, resilience, team chemistry, playing for one another, playing together, buying in on both ends of the floor and continuing to stay the course. I think that's good messaging for our team, and we've seen it, the blueprint, right in front of our eyes.
Coach, the Pacers have played 2 finals games over the last couple of days. 12 hours ago was, game 4, and then I was looking around today, and the fans are waiting 3 hours before the game. Is there anything you've learned about this crowd, this city, through this kind of Pacers run, and then this whole, boost that you guys have given as well?
Well, back in 2000, I was sitting in the stands when the Pacers were in the finals the last time. And that was the same year that we were getting the Indiana fever, right? So, me being someone who's grown up in this state, knowing how basketball crazed Indiana basketball fans are, I've lived through it in various stages. Obviously, this is a peak. And it's incredible to see the momentum of both teams, to see the momentum of this organization, and thinking back to when the Simon family purchased the Indiana Fever and what the Simon family has done in terms of the support, being consistent, staying the course. They deserve this. This city deserves this. This state deserves this. And it's an incredible time to be a part of this franchise.